have a big smile on my face is because when Amanda and Pablo asked me to be on the panel and told me that the topic of the panel was how to succeed, the first thing I said was, I don't really know if I'm going to have much to be able to tell everybody about that, because we're so early on in our journey. And I guess my definition of success, when I picture that in my head, was originally reaching the pinnacle of the goals, the ultimate goals that I had for this business. So, we're not doing that yet. We're not making millions and millions of pounds a year. We're not sitting in the supermarket shelves or anything like that. And I think I've had to reevaluate what success really means to me. And I would say that it's just whatever you need to get you through that day and reassure you that you're on the right path. Some days success is getting an order for 200 people, which is fantastic, and obviously wish that was happening every single day. But some days success is just waking up and thinking, it's been a really hard week and I'm having some doubts at the moment, and I'm just going to keep striving and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to put my head down and just tick the things off on my to-do list. And the next morning you think, you know what, I'm really proud of myself for doing that. So I think that for me, success is whatever you need to do and feel and recognise on that day to just keep yourself moving forward, because it's not always an easy journey, and you're often going to come up against things that make you feel doubtful or make you feel stressed, a lot of stress, make you feel isolated. It can be a bit of an isolating journey, especially if you are a startup or a small business and you feel like you have to do everything yourself. So just recognizing the little wins. Sometimes it's just replying to that email that you've been putting off, or getting a good review from somebody, or whatever you need to keep striving you forward, I would say.
So I think the biggest challenge for me initially was I'd get a contract, I'd be asked how much it would cost, and I'd almost whisper the figure. I just couldn't say it out loud, and I could almost sometimes feel my cheeks burning. I felt uncomfortable. So that was one of the challenges. And actually, what I've learned is that had I had and been more confident about those conversations, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache and made a lot more money. But what I do now is I recognise, obviously, what it costs, what benefits and what it will actually save that company to have me working with them. So that's the point, and I like to have conversations about money right at the beginning, wherever that's possible, to just get that out of the way. I remember working with an organisation, and before I'd gone into business, I worked for the Education and Schools Funding Agency for a long time, so I knew a lot about funding applications, what money was out there. And I really wanted to work with this organisation, but they had no money. And I went away and I thought to myself, let me not walk away, let me see if I can help them to find the money to then pay me, and I did. And that was the solution. So I think that was a challenge. I think in the early days when I was just starting out, it was finding the time to develop my business. I can't find the time. I needed to work, I needed to do all the other things that happen in life, but how I needed to almost like take a step away from my whole life and just sit and develop my business. But the reality is, who can do that unless somebody gives them a whole year's salary or something? It says, go off and develop your business and you don't have to worry about money. But the reality is that most entrepreneurs are not in that position. So what I did is I created that time, and when I've got a contract or a particular piece of work coming up, I create an extra hour. Each morning, I'll get up an hour earlier and I use that to work. And you'd be surprised at what you can achieve with an extra 5 hours that you are dedicating just to developing that business or that contract. So that was a second challenge for me. I think, let me just check back on my notes just to see what else I had down here. I think it was belief. So I stand here now, my voice has stopped shaking now, but it was at the beginning. And in what I do believe that I'm skilled at what I do. I enjoy what I do, and I am good at it. But it's taken me a long time to be able to say that and really believe it. So then if you're going to others and inviting yourself as a potential to complete this bit of work, but you actually say, well, I think I can do this. You can't use those sorts of words of an entrepreneur. You can do this. You know you can do this. So for me, I really needed to develop that. And that really happened for me by having a mentor. That made a massive big difference for me. And really that mentor was about me, helping me to recognise my worth. And once I recognised my worth, that actually helped to solve another one of my problems, which was the one about money. Because when you recognise your worth, then there isn't that uncomfortableness, because you know what skills you bring and what that is worth. So I think they were the three main challenges. And also, it's also thinking if the work sort of like dwindles, what do you do? And it's always about having that forward thinking and having the plan for the next piece of work or the next contract. I often listen to people that have got skills and areas of expertise that I don't have. I always take note and I always take their number. And then I can obviously go back to that person when the need arises. But I've developed a network of expertise, people that can do a lot of the things that I can't do, and I help them and vice versa. So I think, as I think Phoebe mentioned, it can be a lonely journey. As an entrepreneur, you are on your own. You haven't got a team around you. But actually you can create that in the form of a network. And that's what you should do. And as Hayden's mentioned, you can maybe start doing that this evening with some of the people that are in this room.
To 10 basically, even on my fingers. So money has definitely been a huge challenge for me. Even just my mindset around money and finances, you know, in my personal life. And probably don't want to hear someone standing up here talking about business who can't even control her own personal finances. But it was a big wake-up call for me to have to face that. And to have to recognise that actually, if you're going to do this, you need to confront those issues that you have around finances and be willing to make an effort to understand that area better. So yeah, that has always been my number one challenge, and especially is my number one challenge with business is finance. Are we separately going to talk about how we overcame those things? Or
yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about your strategy to addressing that. So
I guess my biggest piece of advice there is just to know what your weaknesses are, and also know when to ask for help. I knew that it was something that I couldn't do by myself, and I knew that I had to ask for help. So when I got to the stage that I needed to start planning the financial side of the business, I asked one of my best friends, who's a financial analyst, if he could help me build our forecast. And once we started working together, and he was starting to understand my vision for Get Stuffed, and he could see the business plan coming together, and he could see my passion for the business. He's now become our financial director, so he's one of the directors of the business, and he's become one of our investors. So just by asking for help and having that conversation, it's not only put my mind at ease that I have somebody to not completely take over all of the finances, but to help me and teach me what I need to know, and to have someone on board who is an expert with those things. But also it's helped to take our business in a different direction and bring somebody on board who is driving our business in a different direction, as opposed to just having someone create a spreadsheet for me. So yes, finance is number one. The second thing I would say is just resilience. Like I said before, it can be tough and it can be tricky, and there are a lot of days where you have doubts, and it's no joke owning your own business. It's no joke getting into this. And obviously you guys are here because you have the right kind of attitude, and you wouldn't be sitting in this room if you weren't a go-getter and you weren't taking steps to head in that direction. But there are going to be days where it's really tough, and just having the right support around you. Best friend and fiance have come to watch me today in the front row. But having the right support around you to make sure that when you have those tough days, you have people who aren't just going to say, oh, it's going to be all right, but they actually know what happens on a day-to-day basis in your business, so that you have someone that you can talk to who really gets what's going on and can provide you with some great advice. And the last thing has been isolation. Like I mentioned a bit before, it can be an isolating journey when you're a one-man show and you're doing everything yourself, and all of the pressure's on your shoulders, and maybe your friends and family and whoever else aren't on the same journey. They don't own their own business. They get to leave work and shut off and leave everything at the door, and maybe don't understand why you can't attend something or why you're making financial sacrifices. So I connected with some other people who were starting their own businesses through courses that I did through Visionnaires and some other courses that were available online, and set up a little business group. So once a month we catch up on a Zoom call, and it's just a chance for us to vent and chat and have an opportunity to talk with people who are, sharing the same experience. And like you were saying, that, one of the things we talk about there is what do you need and what's missing and what could somebody potentially help you with in your business. So using that as a resource to, help not feel so isolated on that journey.
On the hard days, which there's been a lot of recently, that what you said about the folder in lockdown, when we were really, really struggling, we had some amazingly kind parents who we shut in the middle of it was March. We'd shut in the middle of a term, so we had a load of money from parents already who'd bought their children classes for that term. So we said, you know, we either keep it and we save it until the next time you're in, the kids are in class, or we can refund you. And so many of the parents just gave us the money back and was just like, just keep it. And with that, sent in so many nice emails that, me being a creative person, I'd print all the emails, cut them out, and I've stuck them all in a book, and found I found my very old end of year report from my teacher that said, oh, you'd be a great director when you're older. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. I found that, and now I'm the director of a company. So that idea of having all those positive comments to look back through when you're really struggling is definitely something to do. But I think for me, it's I've had to work on my mindset and myself a lot. So in the first lockdown, I started exercising really 4 or 5 times a week, and across lockdown I ended up losing 1.5 stone, and that completely changed my mindset. Eating really well, and the cliche meditation and journaling, without a doubt I do it every single morning, and it changes my outlook on the whole day. If you sit down and meditate for 5 minutes, you can find 5-minute meditation on YouTube. If you're having a really, really bad day and you're really, really struggling, just to ground yourself and be in that present moment, I think actually no one is dying. It's actually all going to be okay, and the business is not just suddenly going to disappear overnight. And just journal how you're feeling. Don't let it sit in your brain and in your mind. Get it out. I have the luxury of having a very incredible support network. My friends and family are amazing. Not everybody has that. So journal and write it out and get the feelings out, because being an entrepreneur and being in business, like Danny, you said, is no joke. It's not a joke at all, because it's really hard. And on the days where even if you're the closest ever with your mum or your dad, and you always at some point feel alone and feel like nobody will ever understand. So on the really, really hard days, just really ground yourself in the present moment, and literally exercise changed everything for me. So I really, even if it's 10-minute walk, fresh air, 100%.
Great, thank you.
Business starting up. I think it's really important to be clear about what your offer is. You've really got to be clear about what your offer is, focusing on that. And even if it means you've got to take time getting that right, or kind of right, before you start, it's so important. So I think clear about what your offer is. That's got to be clear in your mind, because you've got to be able to communicate that to others. So I would say taking the time to do that. I also think, I think one of you mentioned about looking at your competitors and what they're doing. You cannot underestimate the time spent on that. I remember about a couple of years ago when I started my property business, I had an area that I converted into a studio that I wanted to put on the Airbnb platform. I spent so much time reading others' reviews, what got them a good review, but also what got them a bad review. I got somebody who was very, very picky to stay in the accommodation and give me lots of feedback. But I know that with some of my the work that I've done before, if I go to my sister, my older sister, we're really, really good friends, her feedback will always be positive, because she doesn't want to say anything that will upset me. But actually, you need feedback from people that are going to be brutally honest with you, because that's how you improve. So I think organise that within your network. Be very, very clear about what you want to do, what your offer is, what your service or product is, right at the very beginning. I think is useful.
Amazing, thank you, Casita. One key piece of advice.
Just start. There is never a good time to start. Oh, I'll start in January because it's like going to the gym, isn't it? Everybody, let's get a gym membership because January is the time to lose weight. And then I go to the gym, and then you see all those new members drop off after 4 weeks and the gym's empty again. Just start, because there's never a good time. Even if you've not even got a customer yet, it doesn't matter. Just get it out there, get it started, because you never know. And another quick piece of advice, network. Talk to everyone and anyone. ever in the street, wherever you are. Talk to them, ask them about what they do, and arrange a meeting or a coffee, and they will know someone who will give you a new opportunity, who will know a customer. Yeah.
So great question. So at what point do you know to stop doing it yourself and stop doing the accounts yourself and to get external support? Who wants to go for that one? Yeah, go for it, Danielle.
First of all, I think it's a completely valid point, and I think the main thing to note is that there are so many free resources that you can access before you need to start paying for something. So one of the main things that I did differently with Get Stuffed as opposed to the other businesses that I fell into was just spending so much time researching and building a really strong foundation for this business that took into consideration all of the legal considerations and requirements and council regulations and everything else to make sure that I didn't get caught out down the track. And there were a lot of resources that I found through courses like the Visionnaires Startup Step Up program, a lot of the courses through the British Library. Luckily for me, I was starting my business, or unluckily, during COVID, so a lot of people were realigning their careers, and because of that, there is so much free information that's accessible out there. So for example, the British Library has like an IP centre, and I had a call with them because I had no idea about trademarking, and I had a call with them. They put me onto somebody who gave me an hour's worth of free advice about what I needed to trademark, how to do it, how to apply, how much it's going to cost me, what classifications I needed to trademark, and all of the rest. And then they gave me the resource of a link on a particular website which had a list of legal firms who worked in trademarking that they had a free 20-minute consult, and I just went down the list and called until somebody said they'd talk to me, and that person spent 2 hours at separate times on the phone with me talking about my specific issue and was really happy to give up his time with nothing expected out of that. So really, really, really milk the free resources that are available. It might take a bit of time to research and find them, but it's been an absolute godsend for someone who doesn't have millions in the bank to start paying for that kind of thing.
Great, thank you. And just on accounting, get yourself a good but relatively affordable online accounting package that you can understand, and don't leave it till the end of the year to worry about your receipts and whatnot. It becomes a huge task if you turn up to your accountants with a black bin liner full of receipts. Whereas if you've done it every month, you'd be far more grateful for it. I've been there, done it, got the t-shirt. What point to outsource or access professional help like for accountancy?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I recognise is even sometimes when there are things that you can do yourself, you've got to really decide whether that's the best use of your time. And so that might be the point at which you decide that to outsource it. So I, for the first 3 years, used an accountant. Then I learned enough about it to be able to do my own. But then I recognised that actually it was better for somebody else to do that and me to use that time to do something else. Yeah? And also, if it's an area where you're really unsure of legalities, it's always better to get advice. And as you've mentioned already, there's lots of freebies available, but you need to do the research and find the best. But I think that's a point at which I decided to outsource work. Yeah.
Can I just jump in on that quickly?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there, Casita. I think that when you put a value on your time and you figure out how much your own time is worth, that's exactly the point where you understand, okay, actually, if my time is worth £50 an hour and I've just spent 12 hours trying to learn how to do Facebook ads and I still am shit at it, what's the point? I just had a friend of mine in Australia who she did that same thing. She's invested thousands of dollars to learn how to do Facebook ads with an agency that's taught her how to do it. But now she's reached the point where it's going to take her so much time to execute that each week, and she's still not an expert. And now she's back to square one, where she's going to start using GrowMofo because she has recognised that her time is better spent elsewhere. So stick to your lane and figure out what you're really good at and make the most of the time that you have to focus on those things. And if it's something that's so far out of your realm that you're going to have to spend all your time learning about it, and when you do it, you're still not going to execute it that well, that's probably the point that you should look to outsource.
The whole of the business plan is important, but for me, the two aspects that are the most important. So you've got your vision, which talks about what the business is, what you're offering, and then the marketing and the finance. For me, I'd say the marketing and the finance is where I would concentrate most of the time, because you really need to get those two things right. Pricing often I've had the situation where people will come to me and they've got pricing and they've got their business, they've got cash flow, and they think, well, look, I'm not really making any money. There might be a number of hidden costs that they haven't accounted for. So I think finance and really focusing on that is important. And I also think your marketing, because no matter how great an idea you have, people have got to know about it. You've got to use the right channels, as both of these two have talked about. So for me, it would be those two areas, money and marketing.
Wonderful, Casita, thank you. Really great
just to throw
insights.
one thing in on there, your business plan is something that I thought I had to have perfect before I launched my business, but no, that is something that's always going to be changing, and you're never going to get it perfect, and your business is a growing and moving thing, so don't feel like, and this is something that held me back a little bit at the start, I felt like I couldn't press go until that was perfect, but it held me back. Like Phoebe said, sometimes you just got to get the basics down, so great question to ask, and then start and then figure it out. And then if you do want to go for funding or whatever that might look like and whatever purposes you use it for later, then you can fill in the gaps. And one more thing with the business plan is it leads into the previous question. It's all about strategy. That is your strategy of how your business is going to run. And it also, if you have a really clear business plan, it also tells you what you want to do, but it also tells you what you aren't going to do. So for example, one of Luke's best mates owns an alcohol company, but I only wanted to use suppliers who grow, for our wine, that grow their grapes locally within the UK because it aligns with our vision. And I was not willing to compromise on that. And people recognise that, that fact about us. And it just makes it easier if you have a really clear plan for your business to know which directions to go in and also to know what to avoid.
Can I comment on the university
Yes,
thing?
managing time.
So I ran my business whilst I was I started my business when I was 17 going on 18 in my gap year, and then ran my business throughout university, and it's really, really, really tough. Like, no doubt it's tough. And then my third year, my final year, where it was so hard because I had all these big projects going on, and then that was the year where this other lady came up to me and said, oh, can you take over my business? And I was like, great, but this is my third and final year of uni, but those opportunities, take them and run with them. Time management is hard, it's really hard. I was dealing with legals and rebranding, and on my third year of university I was commuting from Oxford to Hendon back to and from every single day. But you can do it, you just need to give yourself time on a Sunday. Always on a Sunday I sit down with my planner, I've got a weekly planner, Monday to Sunday, exactly where you are when, even planning in times that you're travelling, times that you want to sit down for an hour by yourself and do nothing. Plan it into your week, because you really, really need to do that. It's not impossible and it's tough, but the more you plan, there's that quote, fail to plan and plan to fail, whatever, it's so true. It's so, just plan to an inch of your life, your days, and just know that it's not going to last forever. It won't be like that forever. University is such a short amount of time and it will go so quickly, and by the end of it you'll come out and your business will be absolutely thriving. So you'll be fine.
Great insight. Really wonderful insight there. And what a great time to kind of test your ideas whilst you're still studying. Actually, a great time to kind of get a running start, if you like. The other thing I would add on universities is they often have incubator labs, on enterprise support programs that you can tap into, and not all, but a lot of universities also have grant money that they can give you. So if you've not checked that out already, I'd really encourage you to go back to university and do that.
A lot to say, so I'm going to keep it concise. The first thing is, I'm grateful that you asked that question, because it is imperative for every single person in this room to have a digital presence for your business. If you're thinking you don't need one, I'm sorry, you need one. Everybody needs one. You don't need everything though, and Phoebe was spot on with everything that she just said there. The only thing I would add is that when you choose the digital platforms that you want to play on, choose the platforms based on where your target audience is spending their time, not just on what you want to create content on. So if you have a business-to-business offering, you don't necessarily need an Instagram page, you need a LinkedIn page. So when you choose your social networks, I agree, 1 or 2, do them properly and do them consistently. Everything you said was perfect with, if you're going to post once a week or even once a fortnight, just stick with that. Don't overcommit yourself at the start. But also just keep in mind that you don't necessarily, this may be a bit controversial, but you don't necessarily need a website straight away depending on what you are offering. So Instagram has really become a business, almost like the equivalent of your landing page, right? Your feed on Instagram is almost the equivalent of a landing page. So if you're doing something that's more of an e-commerce focus as opposed to like a service-based business, if you're worried about where to spend your time and money, get started on Instagram. It might take a little bit of time. It's not something that's going to pick up straight away, and it is something that you have to invest your time into to grow, and you have to post consistently to grow it. But over time, you can actually sell directly through Instagram. So instead of spending £5,000 trying to find someone to create a website and doing, going down a really long route where it might take 6 months for that to be finalized, you can get started on a platform that's much more easy and easily accessible to use, as opposed to doing the website. And the other thing is, you don't actually have to pay. I paid €480 for my website. I just found someone who was a friend of a friend, and she did an amazing job. I just needed a basic website with a landing page, and she taught me how to, like you said, Phoebe, update it. So every time I need something changed, I don't need to pay someone to do it. I use Shopify. I really like Shopify. They've got a live chat, and every time I need help, someone's on the live chat straight away, and they've got a lot of easy tutorials. They've got a lot of apps and plugins to do all of the extra bits that you need to do. So find someone who can design your website. Just don't use someone that nobody has used, because I know so many people have been burned by web designers. So always go through referral for website, and just get them to show you, once they hand everything over, get them to show you, this is how you change this is how you tweak this, so that you can actually maintain control of that on an ongoing basis. And so one last thing with website is always make sure that in your quote you have a few rounds of changes included in your quote, because they're never going to nail it the first time. So they need to create a first draft, and this goes for any kind of design work, I guess. They need to create a first draft, and you need to have 1 to 2 rounds of changes built into that price, because otherwise it's going to get really expensive if they charge you every single time they need to change it, and they're never going to get it perfect on the first go.
I think do not start a business unless you're ready to have a cry or a mental breakdown at least like once a week. It's just part and parcel of the job.
Look at Luke nodding like yes.
Yeah, I think the word that comes to mind is resilience. Like you will get knocked back over and over and over. I started my business very young, and people didn't take me seriously because I was a young girl who started a business, and I was like, what? I know just as much as you do. It's what Danny said, not taking no for an answer, being resilient, keep going, keep pushing every day, even on the days where you're like, I actually physically can't get out of bed today. Just getting out of bed, if you're working by yourself and working for yourself, is enough for that day. And if that's all you need to do, just do that and be resilient.
Again, I've got so many things I want to say, but the main thing and the quote that I live my life by is similar to what you just said, Phoebes. You don't ask, you don't get. Put yourself out there and ask for help. The reason I'm standing here today is because I did the Startup Step Up program, which was great for me, but a lot of people in that program are doing it as a side hustle, and I was doing this business as my main hustle. So I was a little bit further along, and by the time I got to the end of that, I needed some more support. And so I reached out to Pablo and had a Zoom call with him, and he said, oh wow, I didn't really realize that you were that far along. We're actually going to be trialing an incubator program. Would you be interested to be involved? And absolutely, I was. Yes, for sure. I said yes to that opportunity, and I say yes to any opportunity that comes my way, because you don't know what could happen. So just put yourself out there and ask. You don't ask, you don't get, and you'll be amazed by what you can achieve if you just ask for help.
It's okay to cry.
I would say fear. Don't let fear stop you. The what ifs. The what ifs can be such a barrier. You really need to just kick those what ifs out of the way and start, and be prepared to be adaptable. So if you've made a plan, and it's important to have a plan, what did the famous King Solomon say? The plans of the diligent will surely succeed. So you need to be diligent, have a plan, but you've got to be flexible, be kind to yourself. So if it doesn't work going in that path, and you've got to take a turn this way or a turn that way, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work. It doesn't mean that you're going to fail. You've just got to be adaptable, and actually doing that at the beginning is a good skill to learn, because throughout your business journey as an entrepreneur, you will need to continue to be adaptable. So be adaptable, but also be kind to yourself.
Absolutely fabulous. Really good insights. And my final word is hopefully bringing some of these threads together is is go for it and enjoy the journey. You'll learn something new every single day, and you'll be challenged, and you'll have those moments of mental breakdown, I'm sure.
Many.
But I'm sure you will also have moments of pure joy when you read those client comments, when you see the impact you've had.